Okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, let me put up the volume so I can hear you. Okay, I'm going to start immediately. Like we said in class, this lesson has two parts. Can you all hear me? Is everything heard?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
miss.
very good. Now we have two parts to this lesson. This is a very easy lesson, but we need to do a lot of memorization. We have the antibiotic, and that is finished in class. And we have a list of diseases that we have a small idea about, but we will take them in detail. So let's start and not waste any time. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, now we will start with definitions. And they can ask you what is the definition of an infectious disease. And we actually took it in O level. I will try my best to finish all the diseases today. If you have any questions, please stop me. Now, infectious diseases, tell me, these are diseases that are contagious or not contagious? Quickly. These are diseases that can spread from one person. Yes, they are contagious or communicable. They can spread from one person to another. That is why these diseases are caused by pathogens. Pathogens, these are microorganisms that cause disease because not all microorganisms cause disease. Those that cause disease are called pathogens. Now, we will study a few infectious diseases. We will study the cholera and the malaria and the AIDS and the TB. If you think about them, each and every one of them can be transmitted from one person to another, or even from an animal to a human. That is why it is called an infectious disease. Now, we have other types of diseases that cannot be spread from one person to another. In this case, we will call them non-infectious diseases. These non-infectious diseases are not caused by pathogens. They are not transferred from one person to another or from an animal to another. And we already took some examples. We studied leukemia, we studied chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, and in general, to cut a long story short and to make studying easy, any diseases of the heart, cardiovascular diseases, any diseases of the respiratory system, the chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, any cancers. If you have your notes in front of you, this would be very good. You can write any points as we go along, like I'm writing on the screen. Genetic diseases like the cystic fibrosis, all these are non-infectious. All these are not caused by pathogens. They have other reasons. Cancer, genetic disease, inherited, which is the same as genetic, okay? These diseases, the problem with these diseases is that there is no definite treatment. And they are long-term diseases. They are chronic. Once they start, they don't easily go away. They don't actually go away. And usually these diseases, either they appear at a very, very young age if they are genetic, or they appear at an old age like the respiratory diseases, the chronic obstructive, because it's not common that a young child will have chronic obstructive disease, because even if he smokes at an early age, the signs and the symptoms will appear at a later age. Okay. And also, if someone has a coronary heart disease because he's a smoker, because he does not practice a healthy lifestyle, usually those things they appear later in life. So the non-infectious diseases, not only they are not caused by pathogens and they are not transmitted, they are long-term, they are chronic, they appear later in life, and they cannot be spread from one person to another. And you already know lots of examples: cancers, any cancer, not only lung cancer, chronic obstructive diseases, genetic diseases like sickle cell anemia, and cystic fibrosis. We studied cystic fibrosis and we took some information about sickle cell anemia, and we will study it again, and we will study the mutation in detail when we study the lesson DNA synthesis. Okay, I hope these two definitions are clear. I don't think there's anything hard about them. Now let's start and jump to the diseases. We will study the infectious diseases. Okay? Now you have a nice table here with the diseases that you will study. We will study cholera, malaria, HIV, TB, measles, and smallpox. Now you have an idea about cholera, you have an idea about malaria, but I don't think you have any idea about the rest. Maybe malaria, you have a little bit. Now let's go to cholera. We studied lots of cholera last year, so this will really help. Now this year, what will we study about cholera? You have to know the name of the causative organism. Cholera is caused by a bacteria here. And the name of the bacteria, yes, it is important before you ask me. It's the Vibrio cholera. Vibrio, and please study the spelling, okay? Because you sometimes give me very funny spelling. You can write it like this, Vibrio cholera, the full name, or V cholera. This is also accepted. V dot cholera. This is both scientifically accepted, but I prefer that you write the whole word, okay? Malaria, the causative organism is a unicellular eukaryote, the protoctist. The protoctist is a unicellular eukaryote. In case you forgot, we have 5 kingdoms. We have plants, we have animals, we have fungi, we took it last year also, and we have the protoctists, which are the unicellular eukaryotes, and the monera, if you remember, or the unicellular prokaryotes. Well, this is not our problem now. The protoctist is one of the 5 kingdoms. So we will study that malaria is caused by the kingdom protoctist, okay? Subkingdom plasmodium. This plasmodium is a unicellular eukaryotic organism. Eukaryotic means it has a nucleus and all the organelles, and it is unicellular. And we have 4 types of this plasmodium. 4 species of plasmodium. We have the plasmodium falciparum, the plasmodium malari, the plasmodium ovale, and the plasmodium vivax. And yes, you have to know them. You will see for yourself in paper 2 asking you what are the 4 species of plasmodium, so you have to know them. Okay, now you can study them in your own way. For example, use the first letter of every species and make up a word of your own. This is your business. And you can write it like this, P dot falciparum, for example. Falciparum. P dot ovale. You can, but I prefer that you write the plasmodium because you have to know it anyway, that this is the causative microorganism for malaria. Now, Plasmodium falciparum, it starts with the letter F, and this will hopefully remind you that that species of the Plasmodium is fatal. This is the most dangerous species of malaria. This means that someone can be infected with malaria and survive, yes, but a lot of people die, and especially if they are infected with the species Plasmodium falciparum. Falciparum is fatal, okay? The most common Plasmodium species is the Plasmodium malari. This is the most common. And you will survive or not, it depends on the strength of your immune system. You have a strong immune system, you will survive. You don't, you will not. Plasmodium ovale and the vivax are the least common, okay? So that this is the causative organism for malari or malaria. Now, HIV or AIDS, you are very familiar with that. HIV is the name of the virus. It's a causative organism, the human immunodeficiency virus, and it's a virus. Okay, now TB. TB is caused by what? Bacterium. Which bacterium? We have 2 species for TB. Mycobacterium tuberculosis and Mycobacterium bovis. And again, you can write the Mycobacterium M. dot. This is scientifically acceptable. We will discuss each one in detail. The Mycobacterium tuberculosis affects humans, and the Mycobacterium bovis affects cattle. Okay? Now we have measles and smallpox. These are easy because they're both caused by viruses. Now, how can we prevent confusion between the virus that causes measles and the virus that causes smallpox? Measles starts with the letter M, and the virus that causes measles is the morbillivirus. So M and M. Okay? Now, the smallpox is caused by a virus called the variola virus. Okay, so this slide is very important. We will study those diseases in detail. And the first thing we will study about them is the causative organism. What causes this disease? How does it spread? How do we prevent it? What do we do to avoid it in the first place? Prophylaxis. So this is the first half of the lesson. A lot of memorization, but it's very easy. Quickly, cholera is caused by a bacteria. So let's group the diseases caused by bacteria. Cholera and TB, they're caused by bacteria. Cholera, Vibrio cholera, TB, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, or Mycobacterium bovis. Now, the viral infections, we have 3 viral infections: HIV, measles, and smallpox. HIV, easy, human immunodeficiency virus. The measles starts with the letter M. So what is the causative virus? Morbilli virus. Memorize it this way. Measles, M, it is caused by the Morbilli virus. Smallpox is caused by the variola virus, and the smallpox has been eradicated. In other words, we don't have any cases of smallpox at the moment. Now we will be left with what? Malaria. Malaria is the only disease we will study that is caused by the unicellular eukaryotic protoctist Plasmodium. And this malaria or Plasmodium has 4 species. Plasmodium F falciparum. And hopefully the F will remind you that that species is what? Wake up with me. F4, that species is the fatal one. Thank you. Okay? We have the Plasmodium malari, Plasmodium ovale, and Plasmodium vivax. The Plasmodium malari is the most common Plasmodium. Okay? So I'm sorry, we just need to do a little bit of memorization. Cholera. Now, cholera is the most studied disease in your case because we took cholera in O level. We'll take exactly the same thing. I don't think we will take anything extra anyway. So the cholera, we know it's caused by a bacterium, the Vibrio cholera. Now, how is it spread? This term is a very important term. It is spread by the fecal oral route. They love this term. You will find it in your mark schemes a lot of times. Fecal oral route will remind you of what? Fecal means feces. So this bacteria is always common, or it is always present in the feces, in the excretory waste products. And in one way or another, it will reach your mouth. That is why they described the mode of transmission of the cholera as the fecal oral route, because it is in the feces and it will reach your mouth. Now, this sounds disgusting, and it is, but this is how it happens. We have the Vibrio cholera in the feces, and then this feces will come in contact with your drinking water, dirty water, or dirty food. And as long as something is spread by water, then it easily spreads if the water is not clean. Okay, so the cholera is a fecal oral route. It's a disease that will spread by the fecal oral route. In other words, it's found where the bacteria is found where? Wake up with me. It's found where? In the
feces.
In the feces, and one way or another, it will find its way to your mouth. Now, how does it enter your mouth? Either through dirty water or dirty food. So anytime the water is not clean, it can spread cholera. Improper sanitation, improper sewage treatment. The sewage will come in contact with the drinking water. The water is not clean. The water was not chlorinated. The water was not boiled. There is war. There is a natural disaster. People are displaced. They move out of their house. They live in crowded areas where there is very poor hygiene, and they use public bathrooms. Someone was in the bathroom and then he did not wash his hands and he used his hands to make your food like in a restaurant. Okay, this is how cholera is spread. So let's read along. The pathogen, Vibrio cholera. I think this is easy. Methods of transmission, foodborne, waterborne. Dirty food, dirty water. And how did they become dirty? They came in contact with feces. The feces has to play a role here. Now, global distribution is not important, but usually anything that is related to poor sanitation systems and poor sewage treatment, usually they refer to that as developing countries, like countries that don't have clean water. Incubation period, also, this is not important. Site of action is important. You already know that the cholera will enter your body and go directly affect which organ? We took it in the O level.
Small intestine.
Very good. So the site of action, yes, the wall of the small intestine. And the same procedures that we took in O level, no differences. Now, the clinical features are important. God forbid, if you have cholera, you will have dehydration and watery feces and low-grade fever, severe diarrhea, water loss. You will lose water, you will lose salts, and you will suffer from dehydration. That is why it can kill, especially children or immunocompromised people. They cannot tolerate the dehydration. Now, method of diagnosis is important. Cholera is easily diagnosed from the feces because it's always released in your feces. This is not important. You don't have to memorize numbers. Okay? So cholera, always remember fecal oral route. Hopefully it will remind you of the whole story of cholera. Now, cholera. We will study a few points in cholera, which will be the same points that we will study in all the other diseases. In other words, or to cut a long story short, cholera is found in unclean or contaminated water supply. And this water, one point or another, it came in contact with feces. Let's read along. Cholera is transmitted when people do not have access to proper sanitation, no clean food, no clean water. People, they have a bath or they wash in contaminated water, or they drink, eat food that has been cooked with this contaminated water. People have poor hygiene in general. Okay, they handle food or cooking utensils without washing their hands. You don't wash your hand after the bathroom. And people eat the food exposed to flies because the flies, they stand on feces and then they come and stand on your food. Now, this looks very easy, but this is a question alone. How is cholera transmitted? Or how come diseases that are of oral fecal route are transmitted? You will write the same thing. So this can be out of 3 or 4 marks. If something is in bold, then this means that you have to write it. Now, this spreads cholera because, of course, you have dirty water here. See this buffalo? They can give you a picture like this and tell you, why is this? Are these practices spreading cholera? You have a buffalo here. Now, this buffalo will defecate in the water. Children, they defecate in the water. Of course, this happens in poor developing countries. And then you use this water to wash your clothes. You use this water to drink it without boiling it. You use this water for cooking. So this will quickly spread the disease. Any questions? Stop me. Now, we already know this from before, so you'll find it easy. How cholera causes diarrhea? Now, I will read it and you will remember as I will read it because we took it last year. This bacteria, the Vibrio cholera, will go directly to the small intestine. It will irritate the small intestine and it will release toxins. Remember, these are the keywords. We took this last year, exactly like this in the same order. These toxins will irritate the small intestine or the intestinal lining. The small intestine will respond by releasing what? Chloride ions. So let's imagine with me, this is the small intestine. And this is the inside of the gut. The bacteria will irritate the small intestine. The small intestine and the bacteria will release toxins. Don't forget the toxins. The small intestine will release chloride into the gut. Now, the inside of the gut will become very concentrated. It will be filled with chloride. What will follow? When the gut is very concentrated, then what will move out of the capillaries to dilute this concentration?
Water.
Water. Remember? Where did I go? Yes, water. Water will come out from the surrounding capillaries to dilute this concentrated gut so that inside your gut you have lots of water and lots of salts and undigested food. And this is going to quickly be removed outside the body before given any time to be absorbed. No water will be absorbed. So what will come out of the body? Watery feces. This is diarrhea. Yeah, Okay, I'm back. Okay, now let's continue how the cholera causes diarrhea. We have the toxins, they will irritate the intestinal lining that will release the chloride ions. Chloride ions will be released into the gut will become concentrated. To dilute the gut, water will follow from the surrounding capillaries here. And this water will not be absorbed, it will move very quickly outside the body, and you will have diarrhea. Now, is this familiar? Didn't we take this last year? Any questions? For those who were not with me last year, didn't you take this in the O level? Farouk?
Yes, Miss, I did.
Okay. I don't know why your voice is so low. Yes. Now, people that have cholera, they suffer from dehydration. This is the worst consequence of cholera. Now, how do we prevent that? There are two methods of treatment: oral rehydration therapy and antibiotics. And of course, we always keep the antibiotic as the last resort. Now you should know, why do we keep the antibiotic as the last resort? To prevent what?
And antibody resistance.
Very good. Antibiotic resistance. Now, can you tell me, Farouk, specifically Farouk, what is the oral rehydration therapy? Serene, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, because I taught them last year and I know that they know what is oral rehydration therapy. Can you tell me what is oral rehydration therapy?
It is a solution of salt and sugar.
Yes, very good. Farouk, do you know that?
I did not know.
Okay, oral rehydration therapy. Oral means it is taken through the mouth. Therapy means it's a treatment. Rehydration means it will give you water. It will rehydrate you. This oral rehydration therapy is a ready-made solution that we get from the pharmacy or from hospitals. And this solution contains water, just like Serene said, salts, and sugar. Those three items in certain amounts or certain proportions. It does not only contain water. It does not only contain water and salts and sugar. Now, if I have a child, this child, he has cholera and he's vomiting and diarrheating and vomiting and diarrheating. This child, if he's left to suffer from dehydration, it can kill him. He can die. So what do we do to save his life? We will give him a solution of oral rehydration therapy slowly through the mouth, sip by sip, to compensate for the lost water and the lost salts. Okay? And as the last resort, we will give him antibiotics. Now, why will we give a patient with cholera antibiotic?
To kill the cholera.
Excuse me?
To kill the cholera. The oral
It will kill
rehydration
the
therapy
cholera,
will work.
yes. Yes, it will kill the cholera. The cholera is what is the causative organism?
The bacteria.
The bacteria. Okay? Nothing is new. This is all O level. Now, prevention and the control of cholera. When you know how cholera is caused, you will know how to prevent it. And this is what they do to prevent any disease. When they know how the disease results, they will know how to prevent the cholera. Now, without even reading, we know that the cholera is caused by the oral fecal route, or the fecal oral route. In other words, I have feces that contains the bacteria, and this feces came in contact with water, or it came in contact with your food, and it entered your body. Now, what will you do to prevent the bacteria from dirty water or dirty food from entering your body? Think. I don't want you to read. How can we prevent cholera? What is the first thing that crosses your mind?
Having clean drinking water.
Yes, of course. Proper sanitation, clean water. I will not use sewage. You know what is sewage? Magari. I will not use sewage to irrigate my garden. I will not allow the sewage to come in contact with the drinking water. Proper sanitation, proper hygiene, proper infrastructure, etc., etc., etc. So these basic answers, these are also accepted. You write them down. So the cholera is prevented by clean water that has been chlorinated. It has been boiled because I want to kill the bacteria. I want to provide proper sewage treatment. That's why they say that the cholera is common in developing countries, because they assume that the developing countries, they don't have a proper sanitation system. Okay, and this might be true. Proper infrastructure, proper sanitation. Now, 3. Let's talk about vaccine. Did you ever hear that there was a successful vaccine for cholera?
No?
No.
No.
We are trying to create a vaccine for cholera. We are trying to create a vaccine for AIDS, for example, but it has not been successful. And we will know why in a minute. Okay, now, it is difficult to prevent and control cholera in developing countries. I don't know why they are always attacking developing countries, but that's the case. Because developing countries are considered poor countries and they do not have money to create sewage plants and sanitation systems, and they have poor infrastructure, poor sanitation, no drainage systems, no sewage treatment. They don't have money. They use raw human sewage to irrigate crops. Okay, unfortunately, this happens. They have a very fast growing population and they are not clean. War or natural disasters in a country can lead to humanitarian crisis because people in war, they leave their homes and they urinate in public and they don't have bathrooms and they don't have clean water, and this always spreads disease, displacement of people, destruction of sanitation, and overcrowded housing. Okay, so we are done with that. Cholera is controlled by oral rehydration therapy, antibiotics, monitoring programs to know where the cholera is distributed in the world. This is the oral rehydration therapy. It's a packet. We dissolve it in water and we give it to the children sip by sip so that they become better. Okay? Now, this is so important. That is why it is marked in red. The question of why there is no vaccine for cholera, why there is no vaccine for AIDS, why there is no vaccine for every single disease on this planet. Because can we create vaccines for all the diseases? No, because the foreign antigen will mutate. And we took this in the lesson immunity. We took the antigenic concealment, antigenic variation, and there is antigenic shifting. Now, what is the antigenic concealment? We took it. Who will remind me? Serene. Antigenic variation.
The virus enter the bacteria enter the cell, so can be reached by it can be reached by the antibiotic.
Yes, very good. You are correct. Antigenic concealment. Concealment means to hide. The pathogen, whether the bacteria or the virus or the protococcus, this pathogen will enter inside the body cells and it will not be able to be reached by the antibiotic or the immune system. Or sometimes, like the flu virus always mutates. Any virus has surface antigens. Antigens, these are protein markers that identify the virus. These antigens, they change every time. So the immune system has to identify it every time it enters the body. Because it keeps on mutating, that is why we cannot create a vaccine. Because when we create a vaccine against a particular antigen. When this antigen changes, we have to produce a different vaccine each time. That's why we cannot create a vaccine against the flu virus. Okay, are you with me or did I lose contact? Can you
Yeah, we
all
can
hear
hear
me?
you.
Okay. Now, I'm sure you noticed by now that things are very easy. Also, we took in the lesson immunity that we have 2 types of vaccines. If you remember, we have the live vaccine and we have the dead vaccine. The live vaccine means that the pathogen is alive, but it is weak. And the dead vaccine, the name is very obvious. The pathogen is dead. We use a dead pathogen, or we use part of the pathogen, or we use the toxins produced by the pathogen. Now, which vaccine produces a stronger immune response, the live or the dead vaccine? What do you think, even if you did not study? Someone give me an answer. Which vaccine do you think will produce a stronger immune response, the live or the dead vaccine?
The live.
The live vaccine. But one of the disadvantages of the live vaccine is that it is released in the feces. And as long as the live pathogen is in the feces, this can help in the spread of more disease. So in order to prevent the spread of disease through the feces, when a population is vaccinated, they all have to be vaccinated at the same time. And vaccinating the whole population is called herd vaccination. Again, we have a vaccine for cholera, but it is not effective. Why it is not effective? Because of the reasons that we cannot create a vaccine for many diseases, because of the antigenic variation or antigenic concealment. And we have another third antigenic called the antigenic shifting. The antigenic variation means the bacteria is mutating. The antigens on the surface of the bacteria is mutating. So we cannot create a vaccine every time the antigen mutates. Or the bacteria is hiding, or the pathogen. Concealment means the pathogen or the bacteria in the case of cholera is hiding. How is it hiding? Either it is hiding inside the host cell. I don't know what's with the internet today. Okay, going back. Antigenic concealment, the pathogen is hiding inside the host cell, or the pathogen is surrounding itself with self antigens. For example, this is the Vibrio cholera bacteria. It is surrounding itself with self antigens so that the immune system cannot identify it. As long as the immune system cannot identify it, then I will not be able to attack it. Or this Vibrio cholera is inside the cells of the small intestine, and that is the case with the Vibrio cholera. As long as it is inside the intestines, the antibiotic cannot reach it. Okay, this is antigenic concealment, that the pathogen is in the body, but it is hiding. Antigenic shifting, this is when mutation happens even along the life cycle of the bacteria. So it can happen along the life cycle of the bacteria more than once. And of course, this will make it very, very difficult to create a vaccine. Okay, now we have a problem, and this is one of the biggest disadvantages of live vaccines. We studied in the lesson immunity that we have two types of vaccines. We have live vaccines and we have dead vaccines. Live attenuated vaccine, in other words, that I'm going to inject the live pathogen inside your body, but it will be made weaker because I don't want to give you the disease. I just want to activate your immune system. Now, the live vaccines, they give you a very strong immune response. This is an advantage, but the disadvantage of the live attenuated vaccine is that this live or living pathogen will be released in your feces. And if this feces comes in contact with any drinking water or the food of another person, this will actually cause the spread of disease. So we are giving vaccines to prevent the disease, but it can, by accident, actually cause more spreading of disease. Do you understand this part? I explained this before, by the way, in immunity. Any questions?
Miss, can you please repeat it?
I will repeat it. When I give you a vaccine, Serene, I will give you either a living virus or a living bacteria, but it is very weak. Or I will give you the dead virus or the dead bacteria. These are the two types of vaccines. If I give you the living virus or the living bacteria, this is going to provoke a very strong immune response. And this is something good. This is the advantage of being injected with a live vaccine. Do you understand that part?
Yeah.
Good. But something can go wrong. What will happen? This live pathogen will be released in your feces. Yes? This feces, normally it should be destroyed if we have a proper sewage system. But if we don't have a proper sewage system, or we have a natural disaster, or we have wars, or whatever, the live pathogen in your feces will come in contact with drinking water, and this can spread and cause diseases to so many other people that will use this water. صح? Yes? Okay, so this is the disadvantage of live vaccination. In order to prevent that, we want to vaccinate all the people at the same time. We want to vaccinate 95% of the population so that the pathogen does not come out in the feces and cause more spread of disease. And vaccinating 95% of the population is called herd vaccination. We do herd vaccination when we want to vaccinate the whole population at once to prevent further spread of the disease through the feces. Clear? Are you with me, everyone?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I explained this in immunity, but because we took it 2 weeks ago, you forgot. Now, the other type of vaccine, the dead vaccine, again, the advantages of the dead vaccine is that we can give dead vaccines or part of the antigen or the toxin to immunocompromised patients that have a weak immune system, like very, very young children or very old people or people that have AIDS or people that have very weak immune systems. I can still give them the vaccine and it will not cause the disease itself. But this vaccine is a weak vaccine. It needs a booster dose. It needs adjuvants. If you remember, we need to give it with other chemicals so that we make it stronger. Go back to the lesson immunity. I don't know why did I waste time explaining that. This is not in this lesson. Okay, going back to the cholera. I think we're done with cholera. Okay, we're done with cholera. Again, I will summarize cholera and you will realize that we took it last year. You will tell me, cholera is caused by which causative organism?
Bacteria.
Quickly, yes, it's a bacteria. It's called the, quickly,
Vibrio cholera.
Vibrio cholera. What is the route of transmission?
Fecal oral route.
Excellent. Fecal oral route. Can you elaborate on that? What does this mean? Quickly.
Infected or contaminated water or food.
Excellent. It is foodborne and it is waterborne. Contaminated water, contaminated food. So it will spread if I have poor sanitation, poor hygiene, poor treatment for sewage. I will use sewage. You know what? You all know what sewage is, yes? The problem is always with sewage. We will use sewage to irrigate our crops. We will go to the bathroom, we will not wash our hands, and then we will put our hands in the food. All this will spread cholera. Now, do we have a vaccine for cholera?
Not an effective one.
Yes, it's not effective. Why it is not effective?
Because of antigen concealment and antigen variation.
Yes, antigenic concealment. I think I explained it more than once. The bacteria is hiding. Antigenic variation, the bacteria is mutating. And the antigenic shifting, it is mutating several times during its life cycle. Now, cholera, we studied the mode of action. How does it act exactly inside your immune system? This part is very important. It will enter your immune system, your small intestine, and it will hide inside the small intestine. It will release toxins. It will irritate your small intestine. Your small intestine will respond by releasing what? Quickly, what does it release? It will release chloride. Study it like this. This is my small intestine. The bacteria is here. It will irritate my small intestine. My small intestine will respond by releasing chloride. I will have so much chloride here. Okay, it will be very concentrated. And this is going to be followed by water. Water will be released into your small intestine. It will come out of the capillaries. And all this water and salts will not be absorbed and it will go out of the body. And this will cause diarrhea. Okay, how do we prevent that or improve that? By oral rehydration therapy. This is a ready-made solution that contains salts and sugars and water. Not only water, we give it to the child sip by sip so that he's better. And we give him antibiotics, but we leave the antibiotics as our last resort. Any questions about cholera? Hello? Any questions?
No, miss.
Okay.
Yes.
So enough wasting time on cholera. I took so much time on cholera. It's much easier than that. Now let's finish malaria, and then I can let you go for today. Now, malaria is another disease that I think you already have an idea about. The malaria is not caused by a bacteria. It's not caused by a virus. It's caused by the protoctist plasmodium. Okay? A plasmodium or protoctist is a unicellular eukaryotic organism. And this plasmodium is spread to your body, God forbid, using a vector. And I'm sure you already heard about it. The vector is a female mosquito. It's called the Anopheles mosquito, the female Anopheles mosquito. And you need to know its name for AS. Now, what happens? Look at this nice this mosquito. This mosquito, the female Anopheles mosquito, will go and feed on your body. Okay? Now, first we want to know, why does it do that? It will go and absorb the blood because it needs the protein in your blood. It will use this protein to make its own eggs. That is why it is the female mosquito that is the problem, not the male. The male mosquito does not bite you, and it does not spread the plasmodium, and it does not spread the malaria. It's only the female, because the female needs the protein in your blood to produce eggs. Now, if the plasmodium is present in the mosquito, and the mosquito holds the plasmodium in its salivary glands, in its mouth, when it feeds on you, it will give you the plasmodium. Now, what happens? Let's look at the picture here. Okay, what happens? This is the mosquito. The mosquito will bite you. Okay, the plasmodium is in its salivary glands. It will enter your body, and then it will, where am I? No, it's here. This is the mosquito. The mosquito will bite you. It will give you the plasmodium. It will enter your body, and the plasmodium will go straight to your liver. Inside the liver, it will incubate. During the incubation period, it will multiply by asexual reproduction. And then it will go out of the liver and attack all your red blood cells, and your red blood cells will rupture and release toxins. And of course, this can be fatal. So, what is the causative microorganism? The plasmodium. What is the vector? The mosquito. Again, we have the malaria. The malaria is caused by the plasmodium. We have 4 species of plasmodium. This plasmodium is found in the salivary glands of the mosquito. So the mosquito is not the causative organism, because they ask you for the causative organism and you write the female mosquito. No, the female mosquito is the vector. Vector means it's the carrier. It will carry the plasmodium. The plasmodium is the causative organism. Now, the plasmodium, thank God you do not need to study the life cycle of the plasmodium, but you need to know that we have 2 stages in the life cycle of the plasmodium. We have a sexual stage and we have an asexual stage. The asexual stage, this is the stage where it starts dividing to produce many, many, many identical plasmodiums. Which stage happens in your body? The asexual stage. The asexual stage happens in your body. To be specific, it happens in your liver. Okay? The sexual stage happens outside your body. It happens in the body of the mosquito. It's not our problem now. Okay? Now, this is a question here showing you that they want the names of the 4 species of plasmodium. This is May-June 2017, paper 2. Malaria is a disease caused by the protoctist plasmodium. The organism has a very complex life cycle as it has 2 hosts, the human and the mosquito. What is the life cycle in the human? The asexual stage. In the mosquito, it's the sexual stage. This is all what you need to know about the life cycle of the Plasmodium. Now let's read the questions. Name one of the 4 species of the Plasmodium. Can you give me one of the 4 species? Do you remember any one of them? What is the fatal one?
Plasmodium falciparum.
Very good, the Plasmodium. You can write it like this, Plasmodium falciparum, or malary, or ovax, or oval, or vivax. State the name of the mosquito that is the host to the Plasmodium. I told you have to know the name of the mosquito. What's the name of the mosquito?
Anopheles.
Yes, female. We need to indicate that it's a female. Anopheles mosquito. Okay? Malaria is a disease transmitted by a vector. State the name of the pathogen that causes malaria. What's the pathogen that causes malaria?
Has the Plasmodium malaria.
Yes, here you will write Plasmodium. You will not write mosquito because this is the pathogen that causes malaria. I want to understand the question. Plasmodium. You will write Plasmodium. / you can write Protoctist. Protoctist. Okay? Look here. State the name of the vector. So the Plasmodium is an answer and the vector is another answer. When they ask you for the vector, what will you write?
The mosquito.
Mosquito.
Yes, the mosquito. Please write the female Anopheles mosquito. Female, not just mosquito because the male doesn't cause any spread. Anopheles mosquito. Okay. This is the life cycle. Now, very easy. What's the vector? The vector is not the organism that will cause the disease. It is the organism that will carry the pathogen. It will carry the disease. Is an organism that does not cause the disease itself, in case they ask you for the definition, but it spreads the disease by passing on the pathogen from one organism to another. I don't think anything is hard here. Okay, now, when they ask you about the mode of transmission, it's a nice essay question out of 3 or more 4 marks, you will give this answer, that the Plasmodium is in the saliva of the mosquito. As the mosquito bites the host, the Plasmodium will enter the blood. It will mature where? In the liver. In the liver, we have the asexual stage of the life cycle. It will incubate in the liver and divide in the liver for a few days. And then it will come out of the liver and go and attack the red blood cells. So we have it in sequence. It's in the saliva of the mosquito. The mosquito will bite you. It will enter the blood. It will go to the liver. You have to write it in this order. There will be some incubation in the liver. Asexual reproduction takes place in the liver. Okay? In the liver, it will multiply, and then it will be released. And then number 3, it will attack your red blood cells. Toxins will be released when the red blood cells burst. Toxins are released when the Plasmodium bursts out of the red blood cells, causing very, very high fever. And usually it is fatal and it will cause death. God forbid. Okay? So the Plasmodium is 95% spread by the mosquito. It's a vector. And because it is also found in the blood, it is a blood-borne disease, by the way. If you are taking or transfusing, you are going through blood transfusion and you take blood that is contaminated with Plasmodium, you will get the disease, but mainly through the vector. Any blood-borne disease can be spread by blood products from the mother to the baby, across the placenta, during childbirth, any blood-borne. Malaria can be transmitted through blood transfusion when we use unsterile needles or surgical material from the mother to the child, across the placenta. I don't want to miss anything. We answered that. Okay. In the liver is the asexual stage, and in the body of the mosquito is the sexual stage of the Plasmodium life cycle. Let me read this picture. I got it from the Cambridge book. Anything from the Cambridge book is very important. This is the mosquito. The infective stages of the parasite enter the bloodstream, then the liver. Number 1, it goes to the liver. Parasite will leave the liver cells and go to the red blood cells. Number 2, okay? And then from there you die. And then if another mosquito bites you, the Plasmodium from your blood will enter the mosquito's body. The mosquito takes infected blood meal. Inside the mosquito's body, the male and the female gametes will fuse together in the mosquito stomach. You don't have to know this detail. You just need to know that the sexual stage of the life cycle of the plasmodium happens in the mosquito's body. The asexual stage happens in your body, unfortunately. Okay? And then the cell division will produce thousands of parasites that will be stored in the salivary glands of the mosquito, in the salivary glands, and from there it will enter your liver. Okay, any questions? I think this is new to you. You did not take this before. So is it hard?
No, it's
Anyone has
easy.
any problems? Okay, if you're asked about the life cycle or the stages of mosquito infection, you will start by the salivary glands in this order. The plasmodium is in the saliva or in the salivary glands of the mosquito. The mosquito will bite you. It will go to the liver. The plasmodium will go to the liver. In the liver, it will incubate. It will stay for a few days. It will multiply and multiply by asexual reproduction, producing many, many, many identical plasmodiums. And then they will be released and they will go attack your red blood cells. They will rupture your red blood cells. They will release toxins. And unfortunately, it can have very bad impact on your body. Okay? This is another picture just showing you the life cycle of the mosquito, of the plasmodium. But thank God you don't have to know the details. Other than what I told you, you don't have to know anything. The salivary glands, number one. You have to write salivary glands. You'll find it in the mark scheme. The plasmodium is in the salivary gland of the mosquito. This is the mosquito, and this is inside the human. One, salivary glands, and then it will go to the liver. In the liver, there will be an incubation period where it will multiply by asexual reproduction. And then it will leave the liver, go to the red blood cells. The red blood cells will burst and toxins will be released, and this causes a lot of damage in your body. If another mosquito bites you, then the plasmodium will enter the mosquito. Inside the stomach of the mosquito, we will have the sexual stage, and so on. And the mosquito will bite another person and another person. Okay? So the parasite has two hosts, the sexual stage inside the mosquito's gut and the asexual stage in the humans. This is important. They can try to confuse you in paper 1. Okay? So don't forget, the mosquito is not the cause of the malaria. The mosquito is the vector. I showed you questions. They ask you separately about the vector and separately about the pathogen. The pathogen is the plasmodium. The vector is the mosquito. Clear? I don't know. We have lots of visitors today. I don't know why. Okay. So let's see what we will study here. The pathogen, I think now you know, the plasmodium. We are talking about malaria, by the way. The 4 species, you have to know them. Plasmodium falciparum, the fatal. The Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium malariae. Any questions? Stop me. Method of transmission, of course, you know this. The vector, the female Anopheles mosquito. Why the female? Because it needs the proteins, because it uses the proteins in your blood to produce eggs. Global distribution, you need to know that. Where do you think malaria is found? In areas where we have tropical rainforests or in countries that are desert?
In tropical rainforests.
Of course, logic. Egypt has no malaria, thank God, because we are not a tropical country. We are a desert country. We have other diseases. Incubation period, not important. Site of action, yes, the liver, red blood cells, especially the red blood cells in the brain. That is why it will cause death. Clinical features, very, 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 very high fever. And of course, fever means you're tired, you're in pain, your muscles hurt you. Method of diagnosis, blood. The pathogen is diagnosed by looking at your blood. This is not important, and this is not important. Okay? Now, this question here is asking you, the male mosquito does not feed on the blood, and so it does not act as a vector. This is an exam question, by the way. This is a suggest question. Why there is a difference in this feeding behavior between the male and the female? I think I mentioned it more than once. Why is it the female mosquito that is causing all the trouble? Why does the female bite you, but the male doesn't bite you? I said it. Who will give me an answer? The female needs what from your blood? Did I lose connection? Hello? Oh, I lost connection temporarily. Now I'm back. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to finish malaria and then let you go. I know that it's not very interesting. I told you this lesson is all memorization. Okay. Okay, now we are answering this exam question. They are asking you, why is it the female that bites you and not the male? Because the female needs the protein to produce its eggs. Male do not produce eggs, so they don't need proteins. They don't have mouth parts. You can give any answer because this is a suggest question. Okay, I'm going to not waste any more time. We will discuss now how to prevent malaria. Number one, I want to ask you a question. Is malaria eradicated? Or is it still present? Do we still have this disease or it has been eradicated? What do you think? Give me
Eradicate.
No, we still have malaria. Who told you that malaria is not present? Maybe because it's not common in Egypt, but in tropical countries that have tropical rainforests, malaria is prevalent. It's there. Okay. Now, why did we not succeed in eliminating malaria? What do you think?
It
So we
changes
have,
the
yes, I'm sure you realize now that the answers are the same. We have some diseases that never went away. We have HIV, we have malaria, we have cholera. These diseases, they're horrible, they're fatal, and they cause a lot of trouble. And we never succeeded. We are in 2024. We're very advanced with so much technology, so much medical advances, but still, we did not eradicate those diseases. Why? Now, why am I focusing on this question? Because this question can be asked on any type of disease, and the answer is the same. Serene just gave me an answer. What did you say, Serene?
I said that the antigen changes.
Very good. You will throw those three terms: antigenic variation, which is the mutation of the antigen, antigenic what? Remind me. Concealment, memorize with me. And antigenic, what's the third A? Shift. Exactly. So you will write that same answer every time they ask you, why were we not able to succeed in producing a vaccine against HIV? Why is malaria not eradicated yet? Why do we still have cholera? You will have to give them that same answer, plus some answers that are designed for every disease. For example, malaria, what is the vector that causes malaria? I'm speaking to myself. What is the vector? What is the organism that spreads the plasmodium?
Female Anopheles mosquito.
Yes, the mosquito. Okay. Now think with me. Can we get rid of all the mosquitoes found on Earth? Can we? Is this something easy to do? Yes or no?
No.
No. We cannot get rid of all the mosquitoes that are found in the tropical tropical rainforests. As long as we cannot get rid of the mosquitoes, which is the vector, then we can never get rid of malaria. So when you are asked why we don't have a vaccine for HIV or malaria or cholera, you will give the same answer: because of the antigenic variation, because the antigens, they mutate, and because of the antigenic concealment, because these pathogens or the causative pathogen, it hides inside the body, because of the antigenic shift, plus some other things that are specific to every disease. Cholera, for example, because we have the bacteria in the feces. And if the bacteria in the feces touches the water or the food that we eat, it will spread the cholera. Malaria, because it is spread by the mosquito, and it is impossible to kill all the mosquito in the whole on the whole earth. HIV, because this virus will undergo antigenic variation, antigenic concealment, antigenic shifting, and there is no treatment for HIV. We still did not treat HIV. Okay, so the prevention and the control of malaria. This is a very important question. We have 5 big methods. Number 1, we want to reduce malaria. We cannot prevent malaria altogether, impossible, but let's reduce it. What will we do? Number 1, we will reduce the number of the mosquitoes, because when we reduce the number of the mosquito, we will have less mosquitoes to spread the disease and we will break the transmission cycle. 2, I will avoid getting bitten by the mosquito. 3, I will use anti-malarial drugs as prophylaxis. 4, it is a blood-borne disease, so before blood transfusion, I will screen the blood. 5, I will spread awareness. What we are doing now is spreading awareness. Some of you never heard about malaria before, but now you heard about it. So before you travel to a tropical country, you will make sure you will be careful and you will take drugs or medicine as prophylaxis before you travel to this country. Okay, let's read it so we finish. I want to prevent or reduce malaria. Number 1, I want to reduce the population of mosquito, because when I do that, this will break the transmission cycle and I will have less mosquito and less spread of the disease. How do I reduce the number of mosquito? A, I will spray an insecticide like the raid. This insecticide for the mosquito is known as the DDT insecticide. You don't have to know what it stands for, but because students ask me, I have it there for you. It's the diphenyl trichloroethane. You don't have to know the name. You don't have to know the name before you're shocked. I will just use the insect repellent or the insecticide to kill the mosquito. It's called the DDT. B, I will spread oil. Oh, the connection is back again. Going back, I'm going to spread oil over any body of water because the mosquito lays eggs in water. And these eggs, when they hatch, the larva will go to the surface of the water to breathe. If I will lay a layer of oil over the water, the larva will not be able to breathe and they die. So we will spread oil over the surface of water bodies that the mosquitoes lay eggs in, such as ponds, because the larva, when they hatch, they go to the surface to breathe air. And when there's an oily layer, this will prevent them from breathing air and it will kill the larva. Also, I will drain any marshes or any unnecessary bodies of stagnant water. Stagnant water means water that is not moving. Any watery area, I will dry it out so that I prevent the mosquito to lay eggs. I will use something called biological control. Biological control means I'm going to control the spread of the larva by using natural methods. Like what? I am going to add fish in the pond. This fish is going to feed on the mosquito larva. I am going to add a certain bacteria, you don't have to know the name of the bacteria, in ponds that will feed on the larva. Okay, and this is the natural method, it doesn't cause pollution. Now, NB, mosquitoes, they lay eggs in very small puddles and pools of water, and therefore it is impossible to control all the breeding sites of the mosquitoes. I don't think anything is hard here. The second way to prevent malaria is to avoid being bitten by the mosquito. Now, I don't want to get bitten. So what do? Can you see this baby? This baby is sleeping, and over the bed, over the baby, we have a net. Can you see that? This net is going to protect the baby from being bitten by any mosquito. So the baby, or we can sleep under bed nets. These bed nets themselves can be soaked in the insecticides and avoid exposing my skin, especially during dusk, okay? During the sunset, this is the time where the mosquitoes are very active. I will wear long clothing and not expose my legs and arms so I do not get bitten. If I'm going to travel to a country that has malaria, I'm going to take anti-malarial drugs as prophylaxis. And these drugs are called the chloroquine and the mifluquine. And yes, you need to memorize their names. Okay? These are drugs that are used to treat malaria. I will take them as prophylaxis to prevent getting malaria before I travel. And they do have side effects like any drug. they are expensive, and the malaria can become resistant to the drug. 4, if I will do any blood transfusion, I have to screen the blood for any disease, whether malaria or any other disease. 5, I have to educate people like we are doing now that there is a disease called malaria, and this disease is spread by the bite of a mosquito. And it's not a very nice disease. It's a fatal disease. So you have to be careful and avoid getting bitten by the mosquito. This is education, spreading awareness. Any questions? Hello?
No, miss.
Okay, so I know it's not very interesting. Fine. I'll stop here. I'm not going to say anything more because this lesson is not very interesting, I know, but I'll just summarize malaria. Malaria is caused by the Plasmodium. It's an unicellular eukaryote. It is coming from the Protoctist kingdom. We have more than one species. I have the Plasmodium falciparum. It's very easy. Falciparum is the fatal species. I have the Plasmodium ovale. I have the Plasmodium malari. It's an E, I guess. And the Plasmodium vivax. This Plasmodium is found in the salivary glands of the vector, the female Anopheles. Help me. Yes, the female Anopheles mosquito. This mosquito is going to bite you and give you the Plasmodium. It will go to your liver. It will stay a few days in your liver. In your liver, it will do some asexual reproduction. It will start multiplying. So you have small baby identical Plasmodiums. It will go out of the liver and then attack your what? What's the second thing it will attack? Your what?
Red blood cell.
Yes, your red blood cell. And then your red blood cells will rupture and release toxins. And these toxins will affect your body and cause lots of consequences, especially very high fever. And it can be fatal. It depends on your immune system. We do have no vaccine for malaria for so many reasons, because of the antigenic shift and the antigenic variation and the antigenic concealment, and because this malaria is spread by a mosquito, and it's very difficult to control the population of a mosquito. Okay, how can we just reduce then the infection by malaria? I will prevent being bitten. I'm going to take anti-malarial drugs before I travel. I am going to reduce the population of the mosquito by spreading oil over the ponds, by using the DDT spray. By using biological controls, I'm going to add fish that will eat its larva. I'm going to add bacteria that will eat its larva. But I will do all those things, but still, I can never control the population of mosquito. That's why it will never go away. So it's boring when you read it, but at the very end, you realize that it's so easy. Any questions? And we did talk about these, by the way, in detail. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Remind me, we will continue in class. We stopped at slide 20. We have very few, by the way, just a few diseases, the TB and the HIV. So see, this not a very nice question. Explain why malaria is difficult to control. This is the question that I was stressing on. What we said, everything we said about the mosquito is this answer, plus everything we said about the antigenic shift and antigenic variation, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And we'll go back to that. Explain why vaccination programs have not been able to eradicate what? Malaria. Okay? That's why when I stress on something, then definitely I saw it frequently in the questions. Suggest the factors other than the lack of vaccine that could be restricting the distribution of malaria. See? So here, they don't want you to write antigenic shift, antigenic variation, antigenic concealment. They want other reasons that will be restricting the distribution to malaria of area P. We'll see what area P is. Okay, now I'm not going to, malaria is very important. I'll stop again at slide 20 because enough for today, and we'll continue in class. Okay? Any questions? Did we say anything hard? We talked about cholera. So remember to wash your hands. And we talked about malaria. That's it. We still have TB, HIV, and oh yes, and smallpox and measles. They're shorter. Malaria is the longest. Any questions before I go?
No, miss.
Okay, please finish classified for gas exchange. We solved half of the paper 2 together, and I think we solved around 25 pages of paper 1 together. You will solve the rest alone. If you have a question, send me the question and I will help you. Fine? If you want to score a good grade, you have to solve a lot. Okay, I'll let you go for today. I'll set you free. Have a good day.